Chapter 6, Section 3. All right, in Section 2 of Chapter 6, we learned how to factor trinomials where this number in front of the a, in front of the x squared, was 1. Okay, you didn't see it there. Okay, but if there's a number in front of x squared that's not 1, we've got to learn how to factor that. And there's multiple methods to do this. You can just do a guess and check method, which I actually prefer to do when I'm actually doing it. All right, or other methods, but the one I'm going to show you is the big X method. Okay, and what the big X method does, all right, it just kind of breaks it down so there's a little bit less choices. All right, and so what you're going to do up top of your X, after you draw your X, is you're going to multiply the A, which is in front of the X squared, times the C, which is the constant. I'm going to put a little multiplication symbol there. All right, in the bottom, you're going to put the number in front of X, that B, and you're going to put plus. All right, and then you're going to find two numbers that multiply to give me A times C and add together to give me B, and you're going to put them here on the sides. Okay, so we'll call those, I'll call that X1 and X2. All right, X1 times X2. All right, that multiplies to give me AC, and it adds to give me the B. All right, so it basically breaks it down into kind of what you're doing on the previous problems. All right, once you get through that, doing that, you're going to come back through and you're going to divide both of your X1 and X2, those numbers that are on the side, by that A, that number that's in front of X squared. All right, and if it's a fraction, okay, you're going to bring the fraction, the denominator, out in front. And if it's not a fraction, you're just going to, or if it's going to divide out, you'll just leave it like it is. And you'll end up basically getting X1 plus, sorry about that, you'll have it factored into X plus the X1 divided by A, and X plus X2 divided by A. All right, and then sometimes if those are fractions, the denominator comes out front. Okay, and we'll see that when we do the problem. So here's example 1. I come through, I'm going to draw me an X. Just kind of a graphical way to see it. I'm going to take the 3 and I'm going to multiply it by the 6, so that gives me 18. That's the A and the C. And I'm going to put the 11, which is B, in the bottom. So I need to find two numbers that multiply to give me the 18 and add together to give me 11. All right, so you might need to come out to the side and figure out, hey, what are those two numbers? All right, it turns out those two numbers are 2 and 9. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 plus 9 is 11. All right, once you have those numbers, you're going to come back through and you're going to divide them each by that A. All right, 2/3 and 9 divided by 3. All right, since the 2/3 is a fraction, okay, you're going to end up having the 3, the denominator comes in front of X, and then plus the numerator. Okay, so the fractions, okay, you might need to simplify the fraction, but if it remains a fraction, the denominator comes in front of the X, and the numerator comes over by itself. All right, and then if 9 divided by 3 on the other side, that just turns out to be 3. And so you're going to be having X plus 3. Okay, because technically this is 3 over 1. The 1 comes in front of the X. So there's your answer there, 3X plus 2 times X plus 3. All right, and you can always check yourself. To check yourself, you're just going to multiply those two binomials together. 3x times x, which gives you 3x squared. 3x times the 3, which gives you plus 9x. 2 times the x, which gives you plus 2x. And 2 times the 3, which gives you plus 6. And when you combine the two middle terms, you end up getting 3x squared plus 11x plus 6, which is what you started out with. Okay, so that's your way of checking. All right, let's try that. Go ahead and pause and try your work practice 1. All right, so hopefully you got it right. But let's see, let's check ourselves. So up top I said 2 times 15, which is 30. On the bottom I'll put the 11. I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me 30 and add to give me 11. All right, it turns out that's 5 and 6. All right, and then you're going to come back through and you're going to divide by the a, which is 2. The left one, 5 divided by 2, doesn't simplify. So we put the 2 in front of the x, that denominator, plus the numerator of 5. All right, and on the other one, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And so I end up getting x plus 3. Okay, and then that is the correct answer. Okay, again, to check yourself, 2x times the x gives me 2x squared. 2x times the 3 gives me 6x. 5 times the x gives me 5x. And 5 times the 3 gives me the plus 15. And so if you look here in the middle, those two, 6x and 5x, do add up to the 11x. All right. And that's how you do it. Okay, so let's get some more practice problems here. All right, so let's look at this one. All right, I take 8 times the 5, which gives me 40. And I put a minus 22. That sign goes with it, okay? So multiplication up top, addition on the bottom. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me 40 and add together to give me negative 22. All right, so if I think about the multiples of 40, or factors of 40, 1 times 40, 2 times 20. All right, there's more, but you notice here 2 and 20 would add together to give me 22. All right, but to give me negative 22, I just need to be a negative 2 and a negative 20. Because negative times negative is the positive 40, and negative plus the negative gives me the negative 22. All right, then I come back through, and I remember my a was 8, so I divide by 8. All right, when I do that, I can simplify those fractions. So this turns into negative 1 over 4. So that's going to turn into the factor. The 4 comes in front of the x minus the 1. All right, and then over here, 4 goes into both 20 and 8. So this turns into negative 5. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. All right, and so this turns into 2x minus 5. All right, and if you multiply it back through to check yourself, 4x times the 2x gives me the 8x squared. 4x times the negative 5 gives me minus 20x. Negative 1 times 2 gives me negative 2x. And negative 1 times negative 5 gives me plus 5. All right, and that is the big X method. All right. Go and try practice 2. All right. Here's this. I'm gonna do this one slightly in a different manner, just to show you, give you some possibilities. I'll go back and work at the big X method as well. All right. You could also do it get, guess, and check. All right, and this is the way I learned how to do it, and to me, it just kind of helps you develop some skills of multiplying and adding. All right, but this way, all right, so again, it's a little bit less straightforward. All right, but I know, what you need to do is you figure out, all right, to get 15x squared, instead of just having x and x like we did in the last section, I'm going to find 2 numbers that multiply to give me 15. Okay, and to get 15, I either have 1 times 15 or I have 3 times 5. All right, and so I've got some options here, and one of them is going to work, one of them is not. All right, so I'm going to try the 3x and the 5. x. Okay, not sure that it's going to work, okay, but it's a possibility that it does work. All right, and if it doesn't, I just scratch it out and I try with a 1 and a 15. All right, and then to the numbers at the end, I need to get multiplied to give me 8. All right, and so the 8, I either got 1 times 8, or I've got 2 times 4. All right, and I just try putting those in, okay? So I put a 1 here and an 8 here. All right, and I'll look and see, hey, is this going to give me what I want it to give me? All right, so the 1 times 8 gives me the 8. 3 times the 5 gives me the 15. But when I say the 3 times the 8, that gives me 24x. And then the 1 times the 5 gives me 5x. All right, we'll worry about signs later, but there's 24 and 5 will not give me 22. Okay, now, so I know I've done something wrong. That 1 and that 8 are not going to work with the 3 and the 5. Okay, now I could try it the other way. I could try it with the 8 and the 1, but I'll notice here that I'm going to have a 3x from the outside and a 40x on the inside, and that's not going to give me the 22 that I need. Okay, so I realize that, hey, that doesn't work. All right, so let me try the 4 and the 2. All right, if I try the 4 and the 2, let me put a 2 here and 4 here. All right, when I do that, the 3x times the 4 gives me 12x, and the 2 times the 5 give me 10x. All right, and that does give me 22, but I need to get a negative 22, so I need to have both of them to be negative, which is fine because the negative 2 times the negative 4 gives me the positive 8. And so there is your factored form. Okay, again, it might not, if you don't like that method, don't do it. Okay, you can always do it big X, which will just show you right here. All right, up top, 15 times the 8, which I believe gives you 120. And then the negative 22 on the bottom. Multiplication up top, addition on bottom. All right, and then you got to figure out, hey, what multiplies to give me 120? All right, that's where the big X method sometimes fails, is sometimes that number up top is really big. All right, and so I got 1 in 120. All right, 2 will go into it 60 times. 3 will go into it 40 times. 4 will go into it 30 times. 5 will go in there, let's see, 224 times. 6 will go into it 20 times. Will 8 go into it? Yep. 8 will go into it 8 times 1 and 8 times 15. 9 will go into it. No, it won't. And 10 will go into it 12 times. And so finally we found our pair, 10 times 12. That's going to give me the 22. All right. And then you come back through and you divide by the A, which was 15. All right, 10 divided by 10 over 15, that reduces. 5 goes into both, so that reduces to 2 over 3. Oh, those needed to be negative, didn't they? Yep. And then 12 divided by 15, 3 go into both of those, so that gives me a negative 4 over 5. And so the 2/3 gives you 3x minus 2. And then the negative 4 over 5 gives you 5x minus 4. All right, so 2 different methods to do the same problem. All right, it's just going to take some practice. All right, let's look at this one. We'll do a big X method again. 2 times the negative 7 gives me negative 14 up top, 13 in the middle. So again, first and last multiply up top, middle goes on the bottom. All right, then what multiplies to give me negative 14? So that tells you that one of these needs to be negative, one of these needs to be positive. And then they're going to add together to give me the 13. All right, so for 14, I either have 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. The 14 and 1 are going to give me the 13 in the bottom. And so let me say a positive 14 and a minus 1. All right, come back through. Divide by the a, which is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So that gives me x plus 7. And then the negative 1 over 2 does not reduce, so it gives me 2x minus the 1. And when you multiply that back through, you do end up getting the original problem. All right, so try practice 3. All right, here you go. 4 times the negative 3 gives me negative 12. I have 11 on bottom. It's going to end up being 12 minus 1. That gives me the 11 on the bottom and multiplies with the negative 12 up top. Come back through, divide by the a, which is 4. 12 divided by 4, that ends up giving me 3. So x plus 3. And then the negative 1 over 4 doesn't reduce, so the 4 comes in front of the x, and then minus 1. And there's your answer. All right, let's look at example 4. All right, we saw some of these where we had x squared, then xy, and y squared. So I know that my answer is going to have something x, something y, something x, something y. Okay, but the numbers is where I'm really concerned here. All right, so the big X, 10 times the negative 3, it gives me a negative 30. Notice that I multiplied by a negative 3, whatever sign comes up front. And then a negative 13 in the bottom. All right, so I know my signs have to be different, okay, in order to give me the negative 30. Okay, so think about my 30s. It's either 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, or 5 and 6. All right, and you have to be really careful here about your signs. Okay, because 3 and 10 add up to give you 13, so I could have negative 3 and negative 10. All right, I'll go ahead and write that there. Negative 3 and negative 10. But if I were to multiply those together, those would actually give me a positive 30. And I don't want a positive 30, I need a negative 30. So those negative 3 and negative 10 actually didn't work there. All right, but I have another option here, 15 and 2. Because if I said 2 minus 15, that gives me the negative 13. And 2 times negative 15 does multiply to give me that negative 30 up top. All right, then you come through and you divide by that 10, that a. So I divide by 10. All right, since 2 will go into 10 and a 5, or 2 will go into 2 and a 10, this reduces to 1 over 5. So that ends up giving me 5x plus 1y. And then over here, 5 will go into 15 into 10. So it'll give me a negative 3 and 2, which ends up giving me 2x minus the 3y. Okay, the bottom number after you reduce the fraction comes in front of x. All right, try your practice 4. All right, here you go. 21 times a negative 2 gives me a negative 42. I need a positive 11 in bottom. So since the top number is negative, I know I need to subtract. I need to have different signs in order to get the 11. So let's see, 1 and 42, 2 and 21. Let's see, 3 will go into there, 14 times. Okay, 4 won't go into it, 5 won't go into it, and 6 will go into it 7 times. And so here's my option here, 3 and 14. I need to get a positive 11, so I'm going to say 14 minus 3. It multiplies to give me the negative 42, adds together to give me the 11. I divide by 21, which was the A. All right, 14 over 21. 7 will go into both of those. It'll go into 14 twice, and it'll go into 21 3 times. So that gives me 3x plus 2y. And then 3 will go into both of these. So it'll give me a negative 1 over 7. And so that'll turn into 7x minus y, or 1y. And you're factored. All right, we saw some of these with the x to the fourths, but the work is still the same. We just know the answer is going to be something x squared plus or minus a number, and something x squared plus or minus a number. Okay, always go with the sign, the number, the exponent that's in the middle. But the work is exactly the same. 3 times the negative 8 gives me negative 24. All right, so I need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 24 and add together to give me the negative 5. So I know I need to have opposite signs since I have a negative up top. So for 24, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. And the one that's going to give me a 5 when I add or subtract is going to be this 3 and 8. I need to get negative 5, so it's going to be positive 3 minus 8. Come through and divide by the 3, the A. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'll get x squared plus 1. And then since this one does not reduce, the 3 will come out and have 3x squared minus 8. And there's your answer. All right, try your practice 5. All right. So 2 times the negative 7 is a negative 14. I get negative 5 on the bottom. All right, 14 is either 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. The 2 and 7 is going to give me the 5. It needs to be 2 minus 7 in order to give me the negative 5 on bottom. Okay, and always remember, if you have a negative up top, I need one of those to be different than the other. All right, divide by the 2. That was the A. And so 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. I'll have x squared plus 1. And then since the other fraction does not reduce, it ends up giving me 2x squared minus 7. All right, and then example 6. Okay, the first thing you always want to do, okay, and none of the other either previous problems had this, but I should have pointed it out, is before you do the factoring, you want to factor out anything they all have in common. So if you look here, 24, 40, and 6 are all even numbers. Okay, so 2 will come out of all of those. Okay, the 6 won't come out of 40, or I would take the 6 out. So I can factor out a 2, and they all have an x squared. So if I factor out 2 and x squared, that leaves me with 24 divided by 2 is 12. X squared away from the x to the fourth gives me x squared. All right, 40 divided by 2 is 20. So 20. I take x squared out of the x to the third, that leaves me with x. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. And I took the x squared away. All right, and then you can do your big X with the trinomial there. Okay, so if I do the big X, 3 times the 12, or 12 times the 3 gives me 36. I need 20 in the bottom. All right. So let's see, factors of 36. All right, we got 1 and 36. We got 2 and 18. That's going to be the one I want, so I'm going to stop there. So I need 2 and 18. I'm going to come through and divide by the 12 because there's my A. Don't look back at the original problem, but once you factor that GCF, so I divide by the 12. 2 over 12 reduces to 1 over 6. All right. Let's see. 6 will go into both of these. So this turns into 3 over 2. And so my answer, I'll have the 2x squared from the top. That's still there. All right, and then the first fraction will end up giving me 6x plus 1. And the second fraction will end up giving me 2x plus 3. Okay, so factor out the GCF and then do that process of factoring. All right, go ahead and try practice number 6. All right, let me see if I can delete this practice 7 and get it out of the way. There we go. All right, so if I factor out, they all have an x in common. That'll leave me with 3x squared plus 17x plus 10. So it turns me into that quadratic trinomial. All right, my A is 3 and my C is 10, so that gives me 30. I need a 17. That's the B in the bottom. So again, multiplication, addition. All right, so for 30, that's either 1 times 30, 2 times 15. There's more combinations, but the 2 times 15 will give me 2 plus 15 of 17. So I got 2 and 15. I come through and divide by that 3. All right, I'll still have the x that I factored out originally. All right, and the 2/3 doesn't reduce, so that's 3x plus 2. And 15 divided by 3 gives me 5, so that's x plus 5. All right, and again, you can check these. All right. All right, if you check your answer here, I would multiply the 2 parentheses first, so I leave the x alone. Then 3x times the x gives me 3x squared. 3x times the 5 gives me 15x. 2 times the x gives me 2x. 2 times the 5 gives me 10. If I simplify in there by combining like terms, that gives me 3x squared plus 17x plus 10. So I'm actually now back to this step right here up top. And if I distribute the x through there, I end up getting 3x to the third plus 17x squared plus 10x, which was what I had originally. All right, then for our last example, okay, if there's a negative in front, okay, always factor that negative out. It's going to make it a whole lot easier. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1. And it's going to turn this into positive 6x squared, positive 13x, and minus 5. Okay, factor that negative 1 out first. It'll make the problem a lot easier to do, or at least make it a little bit easier. All right, so then I go do my big X. 6 times the negative 5 gives me negative 30. Put the 13 on bottom. All right, I know I need to have different signs because of the negative 30. So it's going to end up being 2 and 15. That subtracts to give me the positive 13. So I have positive 15 and a minus 2. I'll go through and divide by that 6. 15 over 6, 3 will go into both, so 5 over 3. So I end up having the negative 1 from the original problem when I factored it out. 5 over 3 will turn into 3x plus 5. All right, 2 will go into 2 and 6, so it turns into negative 1 over 3. And then bring the 3 out and I did this wrong. My bad. The first one was 3 will go into 15 5 times. 3 will go into 6 twice. My bad. Just like in regular class, I make mistakes. So it's 2x plus 5. And then 3x minus 1. All right, and the reason why I knew my mistake there is because I was thinking about this 3x minus 1. If this had been a 3, 3 times a 3 is not going to give me the 6. All right, so you can kind of find those little places to find your mistakes. All right, try your practice 7. All right, if you factor out the negative 1, it becomes 8x squared minus 2x minus 3. Okay, so basically all those signs change. 8 times the negative 3 is negative 24. So I know my numbers on the side need to be opposite signs. All right, and they need to give me a negative 2. So for 24, we've got 1 and 24, which isn't going to work. 2 and 12, that's not going to work. 3 and 8, not going to work. 4 and 6 will though. And so I need to have a 4 minus the 6. If I divide by 8, 4 over 8 reduces to 1 over 2. So I'll have the negative out front, and then 2x plus 1. And then 2 will go into both of these, which gives you a negative 3 and a positive 4. So it'll turn into 4x minus 3. All right, I know these can be tricky, okay, but hopefully we have the process set up that you can get them done. Try them out. Try your MyLab and Mastering. Email me if you have any questions.